Welcome back. This is Kim Saeed of KimSaeed.com. And today I'm going to talk about how narcissists function without remorse. But first, what I'm going to do is go down the list of traits that we have come to know as being narcissistic, just as a little refresher. Superficial charm, grandiose sense of self, need for stimulation or a proneness to boredom, pathological lying, conning and manipulative, lack of remorse or guilt, lack of empathy, poor behavioral controls, promiscuous sexual behavior, lack of realistic long-term goals, irresponsibility, and failure to be accountable for their own actions. So, generally speaking, these are the traits that we know to be narcissistic. But guess what? That list is actually from the psychopathy checklist. Narcissists act without remorse because they have this grandiose sense of self and lack of empathy for other people. Now, the old Freudian beliefs that we initially thought about narcissists, them being full of self-loathing and cripplingly low self-esteem and shame, we are now beginning to understand that this is simply not true. I mean, think about it. How can you have a grandiose sense of self and yet also at the same time suffer from low self-esteem and shame? Those two things are very hard to exist at the same time. Narcissists also believe that they're superior to others, and their needs and desires should always come first. It's important to take note of the fact that narcissism is on the dark triad with psychopathy, and the lack of remorse is embedded in the abnormal brain structure of not only psychopaths, but of the brain scans that we do have of narcissistic individuals. They show similar brain abnormalities, meaning that the areas of the brain that are responsible for empathy, they have both been found to have reduced gray matter in certain areas of the brain, including the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in decision-making, impulse control, and social behavior. Additionally, both narcissists and psychopaths have been found to have abnormalities in the amygdala, which is involved in processing emotions, particularly fear and anxiety. In both groups, the amygdala has been found to be less responsive to emotional stimuli, suggesting a reduced capacity for empathy and emotional processing. Because of this, narcissists are often highly critical and even dismissive of other people's emotions, and this includes their own children. They literally cannot feel sorry for you or anyone else. Their brains won't allow them to do that. I mean, we're not even talking about their character disorder or their personality disorder. And frankly, I don't believe that narcissism is a personality disorder. I believe that, again, generally speaking, narcissists are often born with these predispositions to a narcissistic personality, and then it's possible that their childhood experiences can then nurture them and cause them to develop into a full-blown narcissist, or even, well, they say malignant narcissist, but honestly, they're not that much different from psychopaths. So when you get into a relationship with a narcissistic individual, the first thing they do is they will get you to imprint upon this vision of them that is not accurate at all. So you might go out on wonderful dates, you might have lots of fun, you're going on vacation, intimate romantic dinners, and spending all your time together. And lo and behold, they also share a lot of your likes, your dislikes, which makes it seem like the two of you have so much in common. But it's important to keep in mind that when the narcissist first meets you, they're basically gauging whether or not you're going to be a good source of supply for them, which I really hate using that term because basically we're talking about targets of emotional abuse here. Narcissists use many of the same psychological techniques as cult leaders do. So it's no accident and it's no coincidence that when you first meet them, they're just wonderful and charming, just lovely to be around. But then later on, things change and things start to spiral downward. It's not that you started doing something wrong. It's not that there's something about you that has changed that has caused them not to like you anymore. From the very start, the narcissist has an agenda. When narcissistic individuals take on partners, for example, in this scenario, I'm just talking about romantic partners or spouses. It is really more so that it allows them to blend into society better. Oh, look, I'm in this committed relationship. Oh, look, I'm married and I even have kids. So it helps them look like a normal citizen of society. You will also fill in as their emotional punching bag. This is what helps them go out into the world every day and fool everyone into thinking that they're so charming and so successful and so kind and so caring because they're coming home every day and taking it all out on you. So they go home and they vent all of their anger and frustrations and just toxicity onto you, basically turning you into their Dorian Gray, so that they can then go out into the world every day, all refreshed and renewed for their new agendas of the day. Now, if you pay attention, you will be able to tell exactly the kind of person you are dealing with. And this is why it's so important not to listen to what comes out of their mouths, because narcissists and psychopaths are very charming. They're very convincing. And you, because you are suffering from consistent trauma in this relationship, you start to develop Stockholm Syndrome. And so when they either withhold their abuse or they say the things that you want to hear, then you start feeling euphoric, and then you stop paying attention to when they give you the silent treatment. You just think it's a normal part of the relationship. You start to normalize and even tolerate their abusive behaviors because it's a defense mechanism, for one, but you don't want to accept that who you're dealing with is really as sinister and uncaring as it seems they are. Things that are very strong indicators that you're dealing with a psychopathic narcissist are things like constantly giving you the silent treatment, cheating on you constantly, breaking their promises, never following through on their promises, blaming you for everything, isolating you from friends and family or any type of support system, times where you will need their support, such as losing a family member, losing a pet, being diagnosed with a very serious medical condition, or even a diagnosis of cancer. And then instead of being supportive shortly after, or even maybe after you share the news, then they fabricate an argument and they leave you. Another one that most people aren't really as mindful about is when you invite a new partner to come live with you, or vice versa, they invite you to come live with them, and then they're trying to draw a wedge in between you and your children. They're telling you how you should be handling your children, how you should be dealing with them, and what kind of consequences they deserve for their actions. These things aren't the product of someone who is just frustrated or going through a rough patch. This is someone who is showing you on a regular basis exactly who they are. They're showing you their lack of remorse by continuing to do the things that are hurtful, continuing on with the verbal or maybe even physical abuse, continuing on with the infidelity, because they really and truly believe that they are entitled to do all of those things. You are not their partner. You're not their spouse. When you think about those terms, you're thinking two people together who want to spend their lives together and who want to make it work. Have they not shown you that they really don't care about making it work? And I'm not talking about when they're trying to suck you back into the relationship after you've had a fight. That's just hoovering, plain and simple. Because here's the truth. They might be out there cheating and living the single life, basically, because let's face it, in a lot of cases, even though you are in a relationship with them, they're still living the single life. The only difference is that they might come home and sleep in the bed with you. They might occasionally eat a meal with you at your home. But a lot of times they're just out doing whatever they want. Again, because they feel entitled to those things. Unfortunately, your role in their life is to be a prop. You're playing a role, and it varies. They might talk about, oh, this is my fiance, this is my spouse, to make themselves look normal. But yet, when they're cheating on you, what they're doing is going back to the person that they're having an affair with and saying things like, we're going to be divorced. Actually, you've already filed the papers and we're not even sleeping in the same bedroom together. I'm in a loveless relationship. My wife or my husband doesn't love me anymore. We haven't even had sex in over a year. This is how they are chameleons, because they don't have any emotional attachment to you. Because of their brain abnormalities, because of their character disorder. I'm not even going to say personality disorder, because this is who they are. How can it be a personality disorder when this is who they are? We don't say that empaths have a personality disorder, do we? I mean, if you think about it, empaths sometimes their lives can be affected because they're not putting up boundaries. They're not saying no. They're not walking away from relationships when they should have years and years ago. We're not saying that's a personality disorder, even though it affects their lives negatively in a lot of cases. So then in that case, why isn't empath in the DSM as a personality disorder? So we need to pull away from this insistence and this crucial need to label someone as a narcissist and go by what they're showing you. They're showing you this consistent, perpetual lack of remorse. The only way to break free from that is to leave the relationship. And I know it's not easy. I've done it myself. I share custody of my youngest son with my narcissistic ex. I know exactly what all of that means for you. And I know it's not as easy as just leave. If you are tired of living this life, the first thing to do is to accept, okay, these are not regular relationship issues. I'm dealing with someone who's a lot darker than I've been willing to admit all this time. You also want to be mindful of the fact that you have likely developed PTSD, complex PTSD, Stockholm Syndrome. All of these are an umbrella for what we call narcissistic abuse syndrome. And then imagine what your life could be like without that abusive person in your life. Instead of resigning yourself with this is just my lot in life, or I can't leave because I'm married. These are ways that we stay complacent in these toxic relationships. I did the same thing myself until I just got tired of it. I got tired of listening to my own excuses. If you need some guidance on leaving a relationship like this, make sure you check down below the description box below this video because I have included some helpful resources for you. That's all for today. Be sure to drop your questions and comments below the video as well, and I will see you